faces back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, do me a solid. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It isn't too much of a kerfuffle to do that. Notification bell, swing that on as well so you never miss an upload. We've got some really exciting things coming on the channel. We've got an extra special giveaway. Have I just made a word up? Giveaway for the members from one of our lovely parts of the community where you can win a membership for the football club. So we're going to be doing some giveaways like that for you. So that's well worth getting involved for the cost of a cup of coffee. If you want to become a member, link is in the description. It is the first thing you'll see. So if you want to do that, no obligation, but it will be grouse. And today, what we're doing is we're going to look at the pre-season, as a whole, as a big glorious ball of wibbly wobbly, whatever it is. So, as Doctor Who said, wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff. Time isn't linear. Remember that. But what we're going to talk about is just what we know. I think there's a lot of people out there just hypothesizing things you don't know. And I like to pride myself on, I talk about what I know, not what I think. You know what I mean? I have to have substance. So let's talk about it. And I thought the good place to start, right? A very good place to start at times is fact. So Ash Hansen, let's break down. So Ash Hansen, he talked today about what he saw in pre-season. So I thought we can go through what he saw and let's see if he's chatting truth or chatting rubbish. But he did start off, I thought, Ash Hansen. We've got to give him some shout out here with some good stuff, right? And he said that the game just gone was very tough in the first half because of the heat and the light, the sun at one end, and the pressure was very inconsistent. And I think that's a fair comment. Watching that game, Carlton's pressure seemed a little bit like the pressure I'd expect from taps from a house that was built in the 17th century. Dribble. And obviously there's an intensity. I'm not going to patronize anyone in this audience that it's the heat, because two things, right? If I can survive the heat, I'm sure Australians that were born here can survive the heat. And two, it was hot for both sides. So unless there is something in Buller that they have in their sandwiches that allow you to play in subtropical climates, I'm pretty sure it is. Now, when I watched this game, what I do know from that is I thought Harry really, really did come alive. And it's nice to see him playing a little bit higher up the ground as a centre-half forward. We've called up for that on this show quite a bit, of him playing a firm role, a guaranteed role. He seems to chop and change. So we started as centre-half forward. He went into the ruck for about 5 minutes every quarter he worked out at. And then he slotted full forward in his rest breaks. And I thought that really helped Charlie. Charlie worked them holes. Interesting, Charlie kicked them goals when Harry was full forward. Didn't kick any when they switched. So that is an interesting one about my argument of Charlie Curnow needs to play full-time centre-half forward and Harry. I really like that because he needs to come in. That is the big thing for me, that if we've got both of them there, Harry's got to be a goal threat. And this, he really did. And I think something with Harry we've got to talk about is I think he's always going to be inconsistent. Do you know what I mean? He's always going to miss shots. I think we've just got to deal with that. People forget when he won the Coleman, he was still spraying it around and he loved to shank. So I'm not so worried about that. I really enjoyed, though, how damaging he was and how he got up the ground and it let Charlie stay at home indoors. Ash Hansen talked about that they tried a lot of different setups, a lot of different structures to see how ball and how the players would react. And I thought that was really, really interesting because that is something that I felt we looked very good in turnover and transition. The problem is we couldn't nail the simple handballs. It's interesting that Melbourne kicked 5 goals from us transitioning and then bowsing up a handball in the corridor, which was very entertaining for me because it's something that I don't often see. But that loopy handball has come back with a bang, taking on too many tackles and not hitting the runners. And I think a really good passage of players in the third quarter. Christian Petrarca bursts through the corridor and he turns with the tackler and handballs to a winger where Carlton don't turn and they just bob it in the air and it goes. And that kind of is an element of excitement for me. Carlton looking to turn the game on. I did enjoy Ash Hansen validate what we said last week, and that was that there is more of an emphasis on corridor movement and defence and more elements of handball change and attacking the forward press. And that is definitely evident. I don't think you'll see a team as rambustious against Brisbane. I think when Carlton play Brisbane, they'll be a little bit more conservative at times. At times, it felt like Carlton either had 10 out of 10 pace or 0 out of 10 pace. They were definitely in between, where in-game, you kind of see that nagging, annoying, meandering at times with our ball movement, which I just think is par for the course with it. Mark Pittonet did concern me. Now, he got a half into him. And let's be honest, we're talking about what we do know. But if you actually watch Mark Pittonet in that game, there was elements of that game that did concern me when I was watching him. And this wasn't because he was pants. I was more concerned when I was watching him just in his involvement and his positioning. He looked really out of touch. I have to say, I thought Mark Pittonet looked the fittest that I can remember him, to be honest. And we're going back to Box Hill when I'd gone to see them. It was the positioning. If you watch him against Max Gawn, he would get there first and then let Max Gawn go around the side of him. Where, credit to TDK, TDK took his position and then leant back and held him back. So I think that's game time with Mark Pittonet. To be honest, I know people want perfection from Mark Pittonet, and that's fair enough. My argument with Mark Pittonet is he ain't going to be a mobile Brodie Grundy. And if you think that, right, you're going to be really disappointed. Yeah, like massively disappointed. If you think Pittonet's going to be the most agile and mobile ruck, it's probably time to wrap it up, really. Go and watch netball, bowls, tennis. Because you're always going to be disappointed. So you've got to let that go. I do want to see Mark Pittonet enact himself a little bit more. And I felt like he went into this game playing a little bit more like TDK, where I want to see if we're going to play a 2-ruck system, and I've started to be converted against it, I do want to see Mark Pittonet body people and be the bully, a bit like Darcy and Jackson at Fremantle, working in that way. One of them roughs them up, one of them flights them up. So that's something that I did like. I did really like to see the rotations through the centre. And again, Carlton are really emphasising that in pre-season. And that's something for us to become a little bit more dynamic we have to do. I really am impressed with Ollie Hollands' work in the off-season. I know he's my boy, and I know I've got a little bit of a love affair with Ollie, but it was great to see him. Just his energy and his intent is really, really apparent. And seeing these people swing, I was watching that game. I would have loved to have seen Motlop get a bit mid-minutes like he did the week before. Obviously, the stub toe saw him out of the game, and thankfully no injuries. That is a plus. I did really want to see that because I'm really excited to see what that looks like with Jack Martin back. We know Vossi rolled that die in the finals last year, and I'd love to see that, have a couple of games in that. And unfortunately, we're going to see that in the season without seeing how it works. Watching the backline, though, I really did enjoy how we're getting a bit more out of Sard. And this has been my big argument with Carlton. We don't get enough out of him. And it was interesting that Nick Newman's playing that more stopping role, which I think spells a bit of a trouble for my boy Pom Cotter, because Newman now is more on that lockdown role, more on that hard work defensively. And you'd imagine Zach Williams comes in, and that does really excite me already. Just thinking about Zach Williams' elite ball use down the back, paired up with Adam Sard, and they were looking for that switch kick all the time. Whoever was there, whenever they had the ball in the hand, if that was Boyd, if that was Newman, they were looking to inject Sard into the game. And that's something that Zach Williams is niche at, them short hit-up kicks. I didn't mind Lewis's young game. I know he got beaten a few times. Van Ruin gave a run around to Kemp when he went on, and I want to stick up for Kemp. Kemp's not a one-on-one defender, right? And I know he's similar in stature to Stephen May, but you look at how Stephen May plays, he doesn't body the defender. He plays loose. And you saw when Carlton changed to Kemp in that third quarter and let him play a bit more loose and McGovern went central, you saw Kemp feels a lot more better when he hasn't got the defensive responsibility. And it's interesting what Carlton do, because we haven't seen the full game of the VFL, and all I can go is on KC coaches that I've spoke to. But Sam Durden didn't set the world alight, and Melbourne scored goals with ease, right? And look at the forwards that played for Melbourne. They ain't AFL level. Do you know what I mean? Make no mistake. They're nowhere near. Do you know what I mean? The wonderful legend that is Steele kicked 4 goals for them, and he's nowhere near an AFL list, right? So you're going to have a lot of trouble when you come up against bigger size. I watched Lewis Young. I didn't mind what he did. I prefer Lewis Young when he enacts himself a little bit. There was a few times where he got a little bit loose with his body and didn't impose it. But all in all, I felt like he built into the game, particularly towards the end. And that's definitely a confidence issue with Lewis. And I don't want us to get into a situation of Lockie Plowman, you know, where we remember everything bad he does and eventually we just drill him because he's him. Lewis Young is going to have a job to do should he be selected round 0. If he's selected round 0, he's got to be up for the task because Danaher and Hipwood can take the game away from you. So I'm going to back him in. It's interesting that Ash Hansen did mention Durden and Williams. I do think that Zach Williams is a walk-up start for round 0. I think I'm going to have to press that button a little bit. But I do want to talk about Jordan Boyd. I really did enjoy Jordan Boyd's work, particularly that backstop role that used to be Doc's role when he played halfback behind the stoppage. It's real reliable. He hits up the kick well, and that's it. And another thing that I'm really excited about is Carlton's movement in the corridor. It didn't quite pay off this week, and that's fair enough. It takes you a bit of time, do you know what I mean? You can see that Carlton, we talked about it last year, they attack the wing more than any other side in the league. To see them use the corridor is a really good emphasis for me moving into 2024. They've got to do that. It's the shortest avenue to go. And my concern from it is you saw it in pieces in the first quarter. You saw it against Geelong as well. They got that extra kick just outside 50 and then changed the angle, and it looked really good. When that extra kick's not on or they're not working hard enough ahead of the ball, it becomes that long bomb down the channel. And you see that in the back half movement as well. They're not working hard enough ahead of the ball, and that's why Melbourne kicks so many easy goals. And it feels like Carlton, I would say, I've got no stat to back this up, so caveat, Pom opinion with his eye. I think Carlton must be the hardest working side to score goals in the league because we don't have that movement ahead of the ball at times. Sometimes it's a real team defence system, and at times that team defence gets stuck in the mud. And when we do turn it over, Motlop's still at halfback. Like there was times that Fogarty, people asked, was Fogarty playing halfback? He got stuck there on transition. So he was there and Boyd overlapped him and Boyd suddenly was half forward. And that's how Boyd kicked the goal. They got stuck in transition. That overlap, which was a big component this week and the week before, kind of got stuck. And it was like, oh, shit, I'm staying here. And they got caught out of position. So Cowan have really got to work on that for me. And the corridor helps because it's easy to do that. And we saw it in patches in the second half in this game and the first half against Geelong, that when they're working the corridor, they're already there. They kind of haven't got as far to run as opposed to when they're scattered across the field. So that makes sense for me. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. But let's be honest, there's a bit of work to do if that's what we're judging on. I'm not saying everything's all hunky-dory and let's have a cup of tea and put our feet up and fucking 17's coming. It's a bit of work to do, but that's what practice is for. That's what simulation is for. If you went into practice games and you were perfect, fuck, I'd worry. So there's things that are really fixable for me, really easy fixable. And I look at round 12 last year and see where they got to in round 15. These boys obviously can learn. These boys can adapt. So I'm really intrigued to see how it goes against Brisbane because for me, I think only one of Lewis Young and Kemp can play. That's how I'm feeling. That's how my gut is. I think Boyd, for me, has played too well in these 2 weeks for him to be dropped for Zach Williams. So Ash Hansen did mention Pittonet and Mackay. Mackay doing 7 minutes allows them to maybe go in with one ruck and horses for courses. So do Carlton, and it's probably a good game to do it because Oscar McInerney does 95% of his rucking to flip it up because then Danaher does it. And I'd say Harry could beat Danaher in the ruck. I think that's a really interesting predicament. Carlton goes Zach Williams, Jordan Boyd, and then give Doc the help in the midfield because I feel like Doc did more work on the wing. I liked it when he was on the wing this week. I'm still not too sure about inside. And I feel like when Walsh is there and we put Doc on the wing, that does help out when he's making that diagonal run. I did really enjoy George Hewitt's game this week, though. That was really solid, that defensive area there. Cripper, for me, was building quite nicely as well. We haven't seen the best of Cripps, but I really liked his hit out and got the K's into the legs. And I really did like the tenacity of Adam Cerra. Really intrigued about that forward line as well, because David Cunningham finally really starting to put on a good couple of games. I've enjoyed his games. I think he's a walk-up start for the Blues. Fogarty, I think, with his defensive effort was just phenomenal. And Jesse Motlop, he should be fine for round 0. He's excited. I feel like there's one more spot, and Fantasia has shown me glimpses because he reads the pack well. He's just not forward enough for mine. And the ball doesn't get deep enough. So if I was coaching this week, it would be a real emphasis on them entries inside 50, but also them exit patterns out of D50, and give yourself time if you do turn it over. I feel like Carlton fall in. All in all, no injuries, minutes into the legs, round 0, 9 days it starts. And I implore you all to get your voices ready, because we are going to be very much needed in the next couple of weeks to get them through, because already I can see the media knives sharpening. Media knives already, in my opinion, are starting to sharp, and that worries me a little bit, because that means these Blues are going to be under the cosh. We know that. So they're going to need our love, our support. Criticise, but make sure you criticise with purpose. Everyone, can't wait to do this ride with you. I'm looking forward to it. A lot to work on. Some new things that we did see, though, in pre-season. Excited to see how they look in game. And hopefully, in 27 weeks' time, we'll know a little bit more that we can taste and smell. Much love, everyone. Peace, love, and light. Pom out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad.